watching Rogers TV.
Welcome to the Rogers TV All Candidates debate for London Centre in the 2025 federal election. I'm Patrick Maloney, digital editor with the London Free Press, and I will serve as moderator for this debate. We'll start with 1-minute introductions by each of the 5 candidates who have joined us, beginning with David Annis of the People's Party of Canada.
Hi, my name's Dave Annis, and I'm the candidate for the People's Party of Canada. I'm here to offer a vision of hope, a change from globalist agendas. I want to be able to speak freely for those who cannot do so for themselves. We are here to solve problems of inflation, housing, healthcare, rising crime, and free speech. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, Peter Fragiskatos of the Liberal Party.
Thank you very much to the London Free Press and Rogers for organizing this important discussion, and thank you to all of you for watching. So many have said that this is the most important election of our lifetimes, and I agree. Donald Trump has put a target on Canada. Our economy is in danger because of him. The global economy is in peril because of him. And in difficult times, we have to rely on experience. For close to 10 years, you've given me the professional honor of my life to serve for this community. I want to continue to do that in the House of Commons, to fight for you, to fight for your loved ones, and to advocate for this community to make sure that it continue to get its fair share of investment. It's an important time. These are important choices on the ballot. I ask you to look to experience both locally and, of course, at the national level. Prime Minister Carney has unparalleled financial expertise, global experience solving very complex crises. It's time to rally around experience. Thank you very much.
Marianne Hodge with the Green Party.
Thank you very much. I first got involved in politics back in 2008 after I heard about the concept of the triple bottom line. That's where you need to look at issues not just from an economic perspective, but from a social impact and an environmental lens. I've been very involved in the London community. I've served twice on the City of London's Advisory Committee on the Environment, and after that was approached to start a group called Climate Action London. I put out a newsletter that reaches over 1,300 Londoners with information on what's going on in London. One thing being Earthfest, which is happening on April the 26th. So come on out to City Plaza for a fun afternoon, see what's happening here in the city. You can learn more about me at londongreens.ca. We have an opportunity here to address some of the major crises that are happening, and we can do this by looking at root issues and not just at surface solutions. I'm running to represent London Centre because I'm someone who takes action.
Okay. Bruce Lamb of the Canadian Future Party.
The Canadian Future Party was created last year because so many of us felt that the major political parties had gone too far to the left and to the right. We want to bring things back to the center. The Liberals have had terrible policies on housing and immigration. They ran endless deficits and, of course, brought in the much-hated carbon tax. But the Conservatives have gone too far to the right on social issues. We know for a fact in London Centre that the Riding Association would love to roll back legislation regarding medical assistance in dying, and they would relish the chance to bring in anti-abortion legislation. We want to bring things back to the center. We are fiscally responsible, socially progressive. A vote for the Canadian Future Party shows the other parties that you want things brought back to the center. Canadian Future Party, not left, not right, forward.
And Dirka Prout with the New Democrat Party.
Oh, thank you for organizing this. It's very important to have grassroots news in the community, and because it enhances our democracy. My name is Dirka Prout, and I'm proud to represent the NDP in London Centre. I'm a proud Canadian and will always put Canada and Canadians first. As a professional engineer and project manager, I help maintain and expand the infrastructure that is here in London and also in Southern Ontario that people depend on every day. Many of you have expressed at the doors how you have a fear of the tariffs and a right-wing government. And I feel your worry, and I'm also worried as well. The people who got you here won't be the people who take you to a better future. This is especially true in the absence of electoral reform. I'm running to serve the people of London Centre by using my training, solving complex problems to make housing and homelessness crisis a thing of the past. Thank you.
Okay. Our first question technically has nothing to do with Canada, but on the other hand, it relates to arguably the most pressing issue for Canadian voters coast to coast. Can you please tell us your opinion of U.S. President Donald Trump? And we'll start with Dave Annis of the People's Party.
Thanks. Well, he's can be an inflammatory person. Whether you like him or dislike him, I think is really irrelevant. What we need to do as Canadians is look at what he's really aiming for, what his goals are, and try to work with him and our fellow brothers and sisters to the south of us, who are 13 times our size economically, and not fight with them, but yet work together in order for the best interests of both countries. Thank you.
Peter Fragascatos of the Liberals.
President Trump is obviously the duly elected President of the United States, and I respect the decision that Americans made. But I do not respect anyone who puts into jeopardy the well-being of the Canadian economy. As I said in the opening statement that I made, the danger of Donald Trump and his policies are going to be felt, in fact, are currently being felt in our city, in our region, and beyond. And add to that the global instability that we feel. Londoners will be put into danger because of this. Talking about the potential of large-scale job losses, that's why we have to have a plan to address it. I talked about experience. Mark Carney has that global experience to take on the tariff threat that Trump poses. That means, first and foremost, finding new reliable trade partners. We cannot continue to expect that the relationship vis-a-vis the Canadian government and the American government will be the same. In fact, they're treating Russia better than they are Canada. That's unacceptable. We need new trade partners, and Mark Carney is the person to do that.
Marianne Hodge with the Green Party.
Trump has showed us that there is a lot of distraction caused by chaos. And it's very difficult for people to see some of the larger issues that are at play in the Canadian, not just the economy, but in our culture, where we see a much broader polarization. And I think that we've seen that in the American recent election, that people get very fearful of other people. And so we're seeing that impact here in Canada. And so how do we address that? How do we change that dynamic from one of being fearful and antagonistic between each other? And the Greens feel that the answer to that is, or one of the key answers is electoral reform. We need to come together, be more cooperative and not collaborative or not combative. And that is our way forward.
Okay. Bruce Lamb with the Canadian Future Party.
I said when Donald Trump started implementing these tariffs that he's going to get a fast and very expensive lesson in basic economics, and that is absolutely proving to be the case. Canada has done very well by implementing consequential tariffs on the U.S. when they implement tariffs on us, and we must continue to do that. But also, whenever President Trump refers to our Prime Minister as a governor, or as us as the 51st state, we need to take action. We should be expelling a U.S. diplomat every time a person in the U.S. federal government does this of high ranking. This is not something to be toying with or kidding around with. But also it's given us an opportunity. We are able to look internally at how we're operating things, and the discussions around removing the inter-provincial trade barriers, I think, is very important. So we're getting there. Not a fan of Donald Trump, and I think we're going to end up getting through this, but it's going to be a bumpy road.
Okay, we'll go now to Dirka Prout with the New Democrats.
Yes, thank you. Trump is emblematic of a very dangerous sort of ideology that is divisive, that is spread by misinformation and disinformation, that is not thinking as a global citizen, and is representative of the ideas and wishes of the billionaires and the 1%. Those were the people that were around him at his inauguration. One of the things we have to make sure we do, and that's the NDP's role in government, is to take care of people and to take care of the planet. We want to make sure we put the workers first, and we also believe in international solidarity of the working class. Thank you.
Okay. For our next question, we have tariffs, counter tariffs, pauses on tariffs, and increasing uncertainty going forward for the American and especially the Canadian economy. If you were elected MP, what would you want Ottawa to do next in Donald Trump's trade war? And we will start with Peter Fragiskatos of the Liberal Party.
We have to be prepared now to stand up for Canada like never before. He has put a target on our back as Canadians. It's unacceptable. And what I would do as a member of Parliament is work with fellow MPs in the Liberal Party, of course, but beyond. I will work with any colleague in the House of Commons who wants to secure the well-being of the Southwestern Ontario region, first and foremost, of course, London, but beyond that, Canada. There are colleagues who understand business, understand the economy. I've had the privilege of serving on the Federal Finance Committee in the past. I would use that understanding, use that experience to build linkages with colleagues so we can find new trade relationships. I've had the opportunity to visit Europe. I've had the opportunity to visit the United States in my capacity as an MP. Those connections will prove very important now. We have to secure investment with reliable partners. I'm talking about partners in Japan, South Korea, Central and South America, and of course, Europe. Now's the time to build, and that includes building new trade relationships.
Okay, Marianne Hodge with the Green Party.
This is actually a great opportunity for Canada to build greater security within our own borders. It's a time to start thinking about what is some of the infrastructure that previous generations put forward to make Canada what it is today. We need to be supporting each other as provinces, and that includes doing that east-west electricity corridor, because we know that the future is going to be green, clean energy, and so we need to be preparing for that. So this is a great opportunity for us to start building some of that infrastructure for the future that we know is coming. And things like softwood lumber, we're looking, that's a big export to the US, but we also see shortages here in Canada of building supplies. People talk about the housing crisis being partly because of a lack of supply. And so being able to utilize and start manufacturing some of the raw materials that we send away, do that here in Canada so that we build better jobs and we have greater security of supply chains here within Canada.
Bruce Lamb of the Canadian Future Party.
I'm happy, certainly, with the response that we have had to the tariffs, and we need to continue to press hard. As a member of Parliament, actually, one of the things that our leader, Dominic Carty, had suggested when this first started to break back in January was that we should be forming a national government where all parties are being a part of the solution to try to address what's happened here. Now that we're in an election campaign, of course, that's not going to happen. But agreeing with the other two speakers, building that east-west corridor, not only for electricity and things like that, but also for natural gas and oil needs to happen. We need to be able to get our resources to someplace other than the United States. And we need to look for trade partners who are reliable as trade partners, because the United States under Donald Trump clearly is not.
Durka Proud of the NDP.
Yes, so we have seen Trump is representative of who takes care of the wealthy and the billionaires. But who will look after the workers? And that will be the NDP. The first thing we have to do is take care of people. Trump's tariffs will put a lot of disruption into the economy, which means people might lose their jobs, their benefits. So it's very important that the NDP is in there with our pharmacare and dental care plan to make sure that you're not stressing over things and you have that money to take care of essentials. The other thing we want to make sure that we do is transform this economy into a low carbon economy. It has been shown that when you invest in energy efficient manufacturing, that it is much better for the environment and much more productive for the economy. Thank you.
And David Annis with the People's Party.
Hi. Previous governments whether they're the Liberal NDP coalition or the Conservative, have put us in this position where we are under threat from the United States. This isn't a problem because Donald Trump has just suddenly decided to have tariffs. This has been long in the making. We do need to diversify, however, with trading partners. However, we need to work with the Americans. We need to come to the table to negotiate fairly with them. We can't be talking about the evil Americans when we have a supply management system that is benefiting 30% of Canadian farmers to the detriment of the remaining 70% and all the Canadians who buy eggs, dairy, and poultry, and then expect our American brothers and sisters to just roll over and take it. We have to have fair trading practices, not just with the United States, but with everyone. And that's what the PPC will do, work with the Americans to eliminate as many tariffs as possible for the benefit of both countries, because a war will just hurt both of us.
Okay. By one estimate, as many as 10,000 London area jobs could be at risk as the U.S. tariffs target southwestern Ontario's auto sector. If you were MP, what would you say to a London auto worker who wondered what your party will do to help them and their family? And we will start with Marianne Hodge of the Greens.
Well, the Green Party is a great supporter of great jobs here in Canada and especially in London. And those jobs, when they're clean jobs and green jobs, they're not just benefiting the worker, but they're also benefiting society. And things like, factories that are, we're seeing an electric battery factory coming to the St. Thomas area. And these are new jobs that are coming because of new directions. And we know that we have reciprocal, our automaking is together with the U.S. and it's very much integrated, and that is something that's going to continue. But we need to also be making sure that we are advancing our technology, and Canadians are smart, and we have we need to be spending more money on research and development for some of those new clean green jobs that are on the horizon.
Okay, and we'll go down to Bruce Lamb with the Canadian Future Party.
Well, Canadians still need to buy cars. And so be careful when you're buying a car, what brand you're buying and where is it made from. Are you buying a Honda from Alliston? Are you buying a Chevy Silverado from Oshawa? Take a look at where you're buying your car and where it's being manufactured and support those folks who are manufacturing those cars. We still are going to be buying cars. And the US, quite frankly, will still be buying Canadian cars. They're just going to be paying more for those cars. There will need to be a transition. If there are plants that actually do close down, they're going to have transition, but there are options coming in. And as was mentioned, the battery plant coming in with Volkswagen's investment, that's a big one. So yes, these jobs are going to be at risk, but folks still need to buy cars. So look at where you're buying your next car from.
Turka Prout of the NDP.
Sure. The Canadian auto workers are mainly unionized. They are a very skilled group of people who build dependable cars. But there is a possibility that Trump's tariffs may cause some disruption. And that's why the NDP is fighting to make sure EI is modified so that more people can get access without delays. What's different in our plan too is buy Canadian. We're encouraging people to buy Canadian-made vehicles. And as well, I think anybody who has experience any disruption in the auto sector, that they should be given opportunities through EI for job training and education. The same skills that are used to build cars can be used to build public transit. And that's something that we need more of in London, Ontario and beyond.
Dave Annis with the People's Party.
The biggest threat to Canadian automakers, and frankly, any business having anything to do with automobiles, is not tariffs. It has to do with the Paris Accord. The Paris Accord wants to move everyone to renewable energy that is touted as clean and economically efficient, but it's only available in the market because it's subsidized by the government. The Paris Accords wants fewer people driving cars. So you think about that, auto workers. What happens to your job, your company, or any company having to do with automobiles, even if they're able to drive electric ones, which are a lot more expensive to initially buy. People simply can't afford it. And with inflation going up every single year, they'll be affording less and less. The PPC will pull out of the Paris Accords just like the United States has for the same reasons, because it hurts our automotive industry.
Peter Fragaskatos with the Liberal Party.
What I would tell that worker, Pat, to answer your question, is that I have their back. I have their back in the short and long term, just like I was there and other MPs were there for their constituents during the pandemic. That's what we do as Canadians. We rally around each other in difficult moments. And so Prime Minister Carney has quite rightly said that every dollar generated by the federal government as a result of counter tariffs will go to support workers and affected businesses. So workers that are laid off can count on a Carney-led Liberal government to secure that support. Now that's short-term support. What do we look to in terms of the medium and long term? The Volkswagen plant in St. Thomas has already been mentioned. We're talking about the reindustrialization of southwestern Ontario, one of the most historic things and most positive things that's happened in our region in quite some time. I want to continue to secure investments in that regard, work with other MPs to make that happen for the long-term security of our economy and the well-being of workers. There's so much potential here. Unlike the People's Party, I think that climate change presents an enormous economic opportunity, and it's the responsibility of our time.
Okay, further to the electric vehicle market, CAMI in Ingersoll wants, the union representing the workers at CAMI in Ingersoll wants Ottawa to buy its BrightDrop electric vehicle vans for Crown corporations, including Canada Post. Do you believe Ottawa should invest in the CAMI vans, or has the federal government already spent enough to kickstart the EV sector? And we will start with Bruce Lamb of the Canadian Future Party.
Well, I don't know anything about that particular van, so I can't comment a lot about it. I certainly know that everything that's been touted about electric vehicles has been, particularly for commercial use, that they are the lowest cost of ownership. But when I was looking at buying a truck and started to take a look at how far that truck would haul a horse trailer, for example, I found that it was totally impractical. So the reality is that the federal government needs to test these vehicles in actual working situations and see, is it going to make a difference? Is it going to be a low-cost alternative to what's currently out there? And then make a determination based on that.
Dirka Prout of the New Democrats.
I think it's an excellent idea. I know that CUPW, the Union for Canada Post, has put forward plans for electrification of its fleet to make it more energy efficient and be a good steward of the public purse by both reducing the health effects of fossil fuel vehicle emission. The other thing that I think it would do is spur more investment and innovation in that sector. The other things that might be a good spin-off, again, I had alluded to, is transit. We need better transit in southwestern Ontario, and certainly if we have clean vehicles, that would be a benefit to us all.
Dave Annis with the People's Party.
I don't know. And the reason for that is because I don't think any kind of centralized planning works. So there is a market for electric vehicles, and they're good for certain situations, but they're not good for all situations. And so it would be a really bad idea to make a blanket decision and just to purchase from one company for every single situation that's in Canada. Canada has a wide range of environment. What might work in a downtown London area will not necessarily work in the Northern Territories. And so I think you have to take that into account, which means then that each individual branch should be looking at their own needs and making their own decisions. Centralized planning has never worked. And so I don't think we should start now. And if this company creates a great vehicle and it meets the needs, then awesome. But if it doesn't, then we need to find something that does.
Peter Fragos-Katos with the Liberal Party.
In fact, this is something that I've been actively pushing for some time now, and I will continue. I understand the importance of Kami for Ingersoll. I understand the importance of Kami for the Southwestern Ontario region. Of course, we have many Londoners who work at the Kami plant. And so as part of federal procurement policy, of course, it makes sense for members of Parliament to advocate for their community and for their region. And it is inevitable that organizations like Canada Post will replace their fleet at some point in time. In fact, they've started to do so. Kami has a role to play, I believe, very strongly in making that happen. And there are jobs to be created. I take the point that was just raised in terms of the nuances when it comes to, in this case, electric vehicles and perhaps the far north and how they might not be as conducive to certain climates. But on the whole, we see an economy that could benefit, and certainly workers that would benefit by the transition of that particular fleet. And there are other examples. I'll continue to advocate for Londoners and, of course, the Southwest.
Okay, Marianne Hodge with the Green Party.
We've seen a groundswell of people joining that chorus to buy Canadian. And I think that there's a real appetite for Canadians now to really embrace what do we manufacture here and really support the workers who are building things here in Canada. So electrifying delivery or any kind of fleet for the Canadian government, I've seen the Purolator trucks go by that are fully electric. It is certainly a viable alternative. And when we're looking at the cost of moving to electrification, for years we have been subsidizing the oil and gas industry, still subsidizing oil and gas when they're the most profitable industry in the world. And so we need to be adding some of that subsidy to electrification so that people aren't afraid that they're going to run out of range. But there are new advancements all the time, and most of our population is in urban centers, and so electrifying just makes sense for an economic perspective.
Citizens here and across the country are facing increasing cost of living challenges. Can you please tell us one financial pressure you're facing in your life so voters can understand that you can understand the pain of everyday Canadians? And we will start with Dirka Prout of the New Democrats.
I think one of the things that is a pressure would be the cost of gas. It is something that if I have to do a long distance trip, what we have decided to do is use my vehicle because it's a small Civic and it's very fuel efficient. A lot of times I have to drive because there isn't good intercity transit. So for example, VIA is something I would love to take more often. It's very comfortable. If I'm going to a meeting in the GTA, I don't have to worry about gridlock or getting up really early. But here I am having to drive instead because there were not proper investments made. The NDP will prioritize both the environment and the working class, making sure we have environmentally safe and easy ways to get to work.
Okay. Dave Annis with the People's Party.
Well, personally, I'm on a fixed income, and I have 3 daughters, 2 of which live in Toronto. They're all in their 20s, and they're struggling just to make ends meet. What causes inflation? Well, we keep hearing about technology reducing costs of items, and that makes sense. As technology gets better, the items get better, cheaper, faster, and costs are supposed to go down. However, they're not. So why? Why is this happening? And some might say it's because of taxes or policies that limit supply, and those things are true, and that would attribute to price inflation. But the real cause of inflation is monetary inflation, the increasing of the money supply, which is your purchasing power. Not how much money you have in your bank account, but how much purchasing power you have. And that's determined by what's in the supply. Only the PPC is aiming for 0% inflation. We will be instructing the Bank of Canada to change this policy to go from 2% to 0%. We do not want government debt increasing the money supply or fractional reserve banking.
Peter Fragiskatos with the Liberals.
Well, one of the things that I've done both to help out at home, but also to stay in touch with my constituents and their needs is the grocery shopping in the house. And I've certainly seen the bill go up over the years. I know what that has meant for Londoners, and that's one of the reasons I continue to push for cost of living policies that meet the challenges of the moment. And so when this government enacted things like dental care, the beginnings of pharmacare, $10 a day childcare, I think that has made a world of difference in the everyday lives of people in this community and beyond. But it's not enough. That's why we want to cut taxes for the middle class, lowering the taxes on the lowest income tax bracket is what we've committed to, a savings for a couple of around $1,000 a year, and for a family of 4, even more. And we're going to continue to put policies on the table that, as I say, meet the moment in that regard. But certainly what we need to focus on now is jobs, protecting jobs in the short term, and growing our economy. It is a very difficult moment, but we're up to the challenge.
Marianne Hodge of the Green Party.
I have a daughter who is just finishing up university, and one of the biggest challenges is housing affordability. There is not enough student housing, so that people are taking single-family housing and turning it into student housing, and this adds to the cost of housing all around and the limited supply of housing for families. And so the Green Party would be investing money and encouraging the construction of more student housing to ensure that our next generation is able to get an education, because we feel that education is the cornerstone of a wealthy country, and that we need to be supporting students in their efforts to get educated. We also think that lower middle class Canadians are really struggling, as was already mentioned, just with everyday expenses. And so we're looking to eliminate the federal tax on income below $40,000, so that those people with limited means are spending more money within the economy.
Bruce Lamb with the Canadian Future Party.
Without question, it's energy. Is whether it's heating your house or driving to work. The energy costs are high, and that's just how it is in Canada. You know, we are a big nation. We have to drive virtually everywhere, and in many cases, electric vehicles are not practical or affordable for a lot of folks. And certainly heating your house, particularly this winter, which has been brutally cold, it costs money, and everybody knows that. So we need to absolutely address the affordability issue for folks. Now, taking the carbon tax off of home heating oil natural gas, propane, et cetera, and off of gasoline, that certainly helped, but the carbon tax is still on industrial things. And so whether you're pouring concrete or putting asphalt in a driveway, it's going to cost you more. That tax needs to come off.
Okay. On national defense, the Liberals, Conservatives, New Democrats, and Bloc Québécois have all pledged to increase defense spending to 2% of Canada's GDP. Is that good enough, or should Canada spend even more? And we'll start with Dave Annis of the People's Party.
I believe that is a good amount. I think we really need to focus on our American partners so that we can work together instead of relying on the Americans to defend us. We need to work with them to figure out where the gaps are so that we can defend North America adequately. And by working with them, we can come up with plans and enact those. And if it's 2%, then I think that's a good number. Thank you.
Peter Fragiskatos of the Liberals.
2%, of course, is the NATO standard, and so I support that. But of course, I think any responsible federal government would reserve the right to continue to re-examine that in the context of global threats that continue to emerge and are existing. In fact, we see Russia and what it has done to Ukraine. We see China and the possibility of an invasion of Taiwan. These are really dangerous moments in the global system. And so reserving the right to look beyond 2% is something that I think would be responsible. But of course, yes, I do, for the moment, support the 2% standard. And with that comes, of course, an economic opportunity. We need to procure more for the Canadian military. We buy too much from the United States, and what Prime Minister Carney has said and what I support is that we support more Canadian companies. We have General Dynamics here in the community. They employ over 1,000 people. One of the things that I've done and will continue to do is push for more contracts for that company so they can produce more materials for the Canadian military to support our forces.
Marianne Hodge with the Green Party.
I think that the 2% threshold is a good number, but we would use that to enhance our peacekeeping abilities here in Canada. We've always been known as and proud of the fact that we are a peacekeeping nation, but we haven't been doing a good job in the last while in keeping up that reputation. So we would be looking to create a home defense corps that would help to secure Canada in times of crisis. So whenever there is severe weather, like we've seen flooding and wildfires, that we have the resources within Canada to address and to help Canadians with those issues. But we also support international law, and we've seen that that there is not the support from the current government for that. We think that there are instances where, say, the United States has threatened to annex Canada, and without that support of international law, we don't have allies to back us up on that. And we are supportive of a Palestinian state. We're supportive of reducing the number of LAVs that are sent to Palestine and used in the war there.
Bruce Lamb with the Canadian Future Party.
The world is not nearly as safe as it was 15 years ago. We need to make 2% the minimum. The Canadian Future Party policy is 2.25%, and not by 2030, as the Liberal government is stating it'll do, but within the next year or two. We need to make this happen, and we need to seriously be looking at 5%. We need to make sure that there is a strong NATO deterrence because the war in Ukraine is not going to stop anytime soon without deterrence and without a strong NATO backing. It's going to have to happen. We need to be prepared for this. The world is not as safe as it was 15 years ago. We have got the opportunity to make lots of investments in Canada on things like drone technology, electronic warfare research, development, production. We've got opportunities here. We need to take advantage of it. We need to take advantage of it today.
Durka Prout with the NDP.
Hi, thank you for that question. So the NDP is concerned with a holistic view of security, protecting people, particularly the working class, many of whom joined the military. But unfortunately, in 2021, I found out that a veteran had died in one of our local parks. We want to make sure that if you serve our country, that you are protected with healthcare, with the mental healthcare that you need, because we know many veterans, whether they see combat or not, can develop PTSD. We want to make sure our young men and women go into combat or even serve in humanitarian situations with the proper equipment. To that effect, we want to make sure that we have a good procurement policy. We should not be, I should say, selling arms to human rights abusers such as Israel and Saudi Arabia. We need to protect our status as a middle power and uphold human rights.
The Globe and Mail published a Nanos opinion poll that's 3 days old as of this recording, and it found the following levels of support across the country. Liberals, 42.7%, Conservatives, 38.1%, the New Democrats, 8.1%, Bloc Québécois, 6.6%, the Greens, 2.8%, and the People's Party at 1.4%. My question is, what does your party have to do to attract more support before the April 28th election? And we'll start with Peter Fragas-Katos of the Liberals.
Polls are polls, and we have to continue to focus on the needs, interests, and concerns of the people of this community. Of course, they are responding. You just read, Pat, a set of figures there that are favorable to our party, but I take nothing for granted, nor does Mark Carney. I think that's where we are right now. We're at a moment where we're 2.5 weeks into the campaign. We've put forward ideas. We're going to continue to do that to meet the moment. We have a middle class that has begun to thrive over the years, certainly improving since the Harper years, but there's much more work to do, continuing to build upon dental care, the beginnings of pharmacare, childcare, all of those things, but making sure that our economy is secure in the face of Donald Trump and also the rise of right-wing populism. We talk about what Trump has done to the United States. We do not want that to happen in Canada, and that's why I ask progressives to continue to unite around the Liberal banner, because we have to stop Pierre Poilievre and his very divisive politics.
Marianne Hodge in the Green Party.
Electoral reform. And there are many people who want to vote Green, but feel that they are fearful of what happens if they don't vote a different way. And so we really are seeing, again, this polarization. And the Liberals, well, Justin Trudeau at least, said that it was his biggest regret to not do electoral reform. But I suspect that none of the parties really want to see electoral reform because it takes away power from the politicians. So if you really believe in a true democracy, it's giving power to the people. And by having representation of all people in government, you have a different dynamic. You have people then who are now collaborating together instead of in conflict. Like, what would be nice, I think, is to have a parliament where instead of having an opposition party, you have an improvement party, so that you have the party in power and the other parties are just trying to improve those policies and things. So instead of standing on the sidelines being a heckler, you're actually working toward things and moving things forward.
Bruce Lamb of the Canadian Future Party.
Well, you mentioned 6 political parties, and surprisingly, the Canadian Future Party was not one of them. And so I will be thrilled and having a glass of champagne when I do see that the Canadian Future Party is listed, because we need to get known and we need Canadians to know that there is a centrist, fiscally responsible, socially progressive alternative now. I was politically homeless before I got involved in what started as Centre-Ice Canadians and then evolved into the Canadian Future Party, because of so many of us from the Greens, the NDP, Liberals and Conservatives came together and said we need to do things differently. And so the Canadian Future Party needs to get known as that centrist alternative in Canadian politics.
Dorka Prout of the New Democrats.
Hi. In 2019 and 2021, when I was knocking at the doors, people often told me we need to work together. And I think the Liberal Party is a little bit too excited about their achievements with childcare to begin with, because feminists have been working on that for 50 years and pushed that. And the NDP forced the Liberals to bring in pharmacare and dental care. In 2021, it was one line in their platform with no costing. So I just want to remind viewers of that the NDP works for people. We work to put people and the planet first. We're going to make sure that when you need a doctor, they're there for you, that any sort of healthcare is there for you, that your housing is there for you, and working on all sorts of measures to make life more affordable. We're working for you, not the billionaires.
Dave Annis with the People's Party.
We don't believe the polls. Not only should they be taken with a grain of salt, you might want to take them with a truckload. The reason for that is that it's been released in various media outlets that a number of the polls have not been including people out west, such as in Alberta. On top of that, there have been reports that the Liberals and NDP during their interior gatherings inside are using mirrors to make it look like there are more people attending their gatherings. The People's Party has recognized, along with everyone else, how the Liberal NDP coalition, before they started 10 years ago, Canadians were on par with Americans with their income. Now we're at 60% of our American partners because of their policies. Only the PPC will pause immigration to resolve the housing crisis. Only the PPC will aim for 0% inflation to deal with the prices that we are now suffering under.
Okay, we'll shift now to closing statements from the 5 candidates who joined us here. Each will be given 1 minute to summarize their pitch to voters in London Centre, and we will start with Marianne Hodge of the Green Party.
The Greens are about putting people over profits, and that as a nation, Canada is a peacekeeping nation, and that we support our communities both in times of peace and disaster. And I did want to just clarify my previous statement that, you know, the Liberal government is, and Peter has said here that he is supporting more production out of General Dynamics, and that those LADs are being can be directed to Israel through a loophole in the government, and that does not help in terms of working with international law. And we, as one of our directives as the Green Party internationally is all about nonviolence, and so we would like to see a lot of the resources that we have here in London and Canada directed to helping Canadians to, as Durka mentioned before, let's start making more public transit out of the General Dynamics facilities instead of war machines.
Bruce Lamb of the Canadian Futures Party.
The major Canadian political parties have gone too far to the extremes. The Canadian Future Party is a socially progressive, fiscally responsible alternative for Canadians. We focus on policies that are backed by evidence, and I'm glad to have had the opportunity to share some of those thoughts with you today. As a brand new party, we're not expecting to win this riding in this election, but we do want to change the debate and bring things back to the center. If you feel that the major parties do not represent your views anymore, a vote for me would demonstrate to the major political parties that we want politics brought back to the center. My name is Bruce Lamb with the Canadian Future Party. We are not left, not right, forward.
Durka Prout of the NDP.
Times are tough, and Canada is worse off today than when we elected the Liberal government. London has experienced more poverty, more homelessness, and a declining standard of living. The Conservative candidate didn't come to this debate. They have their voice represented here in the PPC candidate. However, if you don't show up for the interview, you should not get the job. We have always chosen either a Liberal or Conservative to represent us, but they have only represented themselves. The old saying is Liberal, Tory, same old story. They're in it for the billionaires and the millionaires. They're in it for big business and their American friends. I'm in it for the workers. I'm in it for Canada, and I'm in it for you. On April the 28th, or in the advanced polls, vote Durka Prout and the NDP for London Centre. Thank you.
Dave Annis with the People's Party.
Every single issue brought up here today by my colleagues and Pat are downhill of inflation, which is caused by money printing by the government and banks. Your purchasing power is being stolen by these two entities, and only the PPC is proposing to do anything about it. In 2019, $93 billion was created. In 2020, $332 billion. 2021, $195 billion. 2022, $158 billion. 2023, $216 billion. 2024, about $206 billion. All this added to the money supply. Why are banks and our government allowed to print money and not you? Why do they get to spend that made-up money? If elected, I'll propose a bill to criminalize money printing, which will help solve all of these issues. We need to separate money from state. The People's Party is not far right. We're just right. And we are the People's Party, not the party of the elite. Thank you.
Peter Fragascatos of the Liberal Party.
Again, I want to thank Rogers, I want to thank the London Free Press, and I want to thank my colleagues for being here today. The Conservatives, as you just heard, did not show up. They never show up to debates. I don't know what it is, but Mr. Gallant, you're not here again. You weren't there in 2021. You weren't there in 2019, and you're not here in the 2025 election. How can you stand up and say that you want to support this community and advocate for it in the cathedral of Canadian democracy, the House of Commons? We share certain fundamental disagreements, but it's been a respectful debate. But I pledge to you, to the viewers, and specifically to those in London Centre voting in this election, I want to continue to be there for this community. I've been there for almost 10 years. I've secured investments in our community. I've been there there for people in their most difficult moments, and this is a very difficult moment. We have Trump, we have Poilievre, we have right-wing populism, and we must unite now as Canadians to stop it. I will be there for London, and I will be there for Canada, always.
I will note as we wrap up that all the candidates running in London Centre were invited to participate in this debate. Thank you to the 5 candidates who made the time to join us. Thank you for watching, and we encourage you to vote in the April 28th federal election.
My name is Stephen Gallant. I am the Conservative candidate of London Centre. I'm sorry I'm unable to attend the debate today in person, but I'm out canvassing, hearing from the constituents of London Centre directly. I'm very grateful to be able to submit this video submission because I believe this election is the most important election in Canadian history. The last 10 years have been nothing short of devastating for the Canadian economy and Canadians. Under the Liberal rule, we have seen the cost of living skyrocket, inflation run rampant, crime rates rose, and purchasing of a home has become out of reach for the average Canadian. So I just have one question. How can you expect anything different from the same Liberal government? Sure, the Liberals may try to convince you that everything has changed, but you can't erase 10 years of bad policy decisions. The Conservative Party represents a new beginning, a fresh perspective, and a new mandate to tackle the issues facing our nation. And these are big issues. We want to lower taxes to put more money in your paycheck. We want to cut red tape to build more homes quickly and cheaply. We want to crack down on crime to help keep our cities safe. And we want to create rehabilitation centers to help those who are addicted to drugs. The Liberals and NDP want to convince you that the Conservatives are anti-Canadian. But the thing is, we have been listening to Canadians for the last decade, while our opponents have been totally out of touch. We've heard you, and now we're ready to get started.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com. Canada is at a crossroads, facing an affordability crisis, strains on healthcare, and climate change. Get to know the candidates running to be your MP and represent your interests in Ottawa. Hear from your local candidates during Rogers TV's coverage of the local campaign. And on election night, Rogers TV delivers the local results. Rogers TV. Watch, learn, vote.
I was petrified of the water, absolutely petrified. If I go up to the local pool in the summer with the children, I wouldn't get in. Come on, Granny, come on, you know. No. I sort of made this idea that I'd got to swim before I was 70. Something just in me said it was about time to do this. It's not just for me, it's for the family as well, so I can enjoy being with the family in something that they enjoy. I went ziplining last year, so I mean, you do these things, don't you? My name's Margaret Hartshorn. What do you want to know about me? Oh, how can I say what type of person I am? That's for someone else to say. Open, forthright. I say what I think, don't mince my words, which can be offensive to some people. Quite a lot of people, actually. I went back to school when I was 48, I went to Algonquin to learn horticulture and landscape design. I was the oldest student there. I'm passionate about learning because I never achieved much at school. I was a non-achiever at school. So when you're at school and you're told you're never going to amount to anything, it's a very big challenge to amount to something. And to go back to college and being told that yes, you can learn. You know, I didn't know I could learn. So, you know, I'm dyslexic, and so that was a big thing. It was a big thing. It sounds silly, but even in a shower, I hated the water going over my face. I'd always stand that way. I couldn't tolerate it. I got this total fear of water. I didn't like getting in a canoe or anything because it's at the back of your mind, I can't swim. Today will be my 60th lesson. 60 lessons might sound a lot, but to me it isn't, because it's been a long journey. My husband drove me here for the first class because I wouldn't have done it. Stephanie's holding my hand the whole time. I mean, I don't know what she recollects about it, but I don't recollect a lot. That first time, but she did get me in the water. She held my hand, and I think she just started to get me to put my face in it and blow bubbles. And that was the scariest thing, to actually immerse my face in the water. So I was absolutely breathless and full of fear, totally full of fear. And that's embarrassing when you're my age. To be so scared of something and for someone else to see what you're scared of. You're letting people know your inner self, your inner fears, and we usually hide that from people. I mean, it's not something I share with anyone except my family. If you've got something that you've always thought of that you'd like to do in your life, whether it's swimming or anything, you know, skydiving, anything, do it, try it. You have to push through that wall that you've created, and you'll find that you can. I mean, it's not easy. It's very, very difficult. You have to overcome the mental side of it that's telling you can't do it, and I don't know how you get through that, but you can. I write myself notes. And tell myself in my day book, do it, you know, learn to swim, you've got to do it. And when I got to the point of just doing a flutter kick, you know, I treated my daughters to come to the spa, and I told them to bring their swimsuits, and we went down to the pool, and I got in the pool. They couldn't believe that I just walked into the pool. In fact, one of my daughters rushed in and came and held my hand. They were so proud of me, they just couldn't believe it, you know, that I'd done this in secret, just in case it didn't work out, you know, I mean. So I didn't tell anyone because I didn't know if I'd be capable of doing it. But I am, and I'm doing it.
I gotta give you a high five. That's amazing.